I am so excited because the Step Out TV shows are back live on T2I TV. And for those who don't know, Step Out is a series of interviews and motivational segments designed to bring the best out of you and your business. Therefore, we have the following TV programs. Our first TV program, which is our flagship program, dubbed Step Out with Oscar Bimpong, is designed to interview consultants, experts, talented people, and those doing exceptionally well in their communities. The second one is Step Out SME Focus. This is where we interview business owners and showcase their products and services. The third one is Step Out Youth Impact Zone. This is where we interview young people succeeding against all odds to serve as an inspiration to other young people. And the last one is Step Out Authors Corner. And this is where we interview authors to share what their book is about to the world. Join us every week at 7 p.m. GMT. Like T2I TV on Facebook and subscribe to the YouTube channel. To advertise or for further information, do WhatsApp +44 759 1152 983 or +233 55 580 3924 or email info@traintoinspire.com. T2I TV. We engage, educate, enlighten, and empower.
Welcome to another exciting edition of the Step Out with Oscar Bimpong. And tonight we have got a powerful discussion with a powerful man all the way from the Gambia. What do we do with the Step Out TV show? The Step Out TV shows is educational. It's here to inspire you. It's here to give you the needed information for you to succeed in the marketplace. And tonight is no exception. Now, before I go on to my guest, I would like to do some few mentions of our sponsors. Now, this program is sponsored by Train to Inspire Consultancy. Train to Inspire Consultancy is your business training and consulting firm. It's for all your business training in the areas of leadership and management, customer service, sales and marketing, you name them. We work with different consultants across the globe to deliver training in different areas of business. Also, we work with schools as well. We have got a program called the Step Out International Final Year Student Summit, where we help students who are about to enter into the world market, how they can really position themselves and succeed in the marketplace. We always say this, the school prepares them to get first class and also the second uppers, but it does not prepare them to how they can succeed in the real world. And that is where we come in to bridge the gap. It's an amazing training for students that are about to enter into the world market. Also, this program is sponsored by ALS Global Shipping and Logistics. ALS says, if you are stranded at the port, just call them. They are your best import and export company based in Accra. Also, ZPay Ghana Limited. That is your remittance and mobile money company based in Ghana. They just launched their ZPay mobile money USSD code, which is *270#. Just dial it on your phone to register for ZPay mobile money right on your phone. You don't need an agent to do that. Then also Wheels for Sure, your car leasing for every credit. Wheels for Sure says it doesn't matter your credit. You can drive out of the garage a car of your choice. Please quote T2I 2020 when you call Wheels for Sure. Now, to really speak to any of our sponsors, their numbers are scrolling on the screen. When you take the number, tell them you took the number from T2I TV UK, and you are more likely to get a very good deal. Then also, if you want to sponsor or advertise on any of our shows, you are more welcome to do so. We as a business training and consulting firm will be here to supporting you as well for your business growth aside you advertising with us. I always say that most small businesses and medium enterprises cannot go to mainstream media. But with us, when you come and advertise with us, we are going to help you to grow as well. And that is what you need as a business, how you can really strategically position yourself in a marketplace. Also, if you want to support what we are doing, you are more than welcome to do so. If you say, look, Oscar, you and your team, whatever you are doing, I want to support you guys, you are more than welcome to do so. Now, who do I have on the hot seat? This man is doing very well in Gambian politics. He is the go-to person, I can say, when you come to Gambian politics. A young, energetic man, full of wisdom, and he has got the passion to change the face of governance and politics, not only in Gambia, but in Africa. Now, who is this man that I'm talking about? He is an award-winning senior lecturer, consultant, and is the head of political science department at the University of Gambia. He is in the person of Dr. Ismaila Ceesay. Please welcome to Step Out with Kabimpo, and you are live on T2I TV UK.
Thank you, Oscar. Thank you for having me.
How has your day been?
Well, it's been wonderful. Very delightful day. Thank you. And yours?
It's as usual, busy, but we always manage it better. We don't have any option.
That's good.
Yes. Now, let's go straight to business. Tell me briefly about yourself that I really missed in my introduction.
Well, thank you, Oscar. Like you rightly mentioned, my name is Ismaila Ceesay. Professionally, they call me Dr. Ismaila Ceesay. I was born in the Gambia, a little town called Brikama. Born and raised in Brikama, did my primary school education in Brikama. And I did my high school education in Sierra Leone, in Freetown, one of the best schools in Freetown at that time, Albert Academy. And then I finished my high school, GCE, went back to the Gambia, and then I moved to Sweden. It was in Sweden that I did my undergraduate degree in political science at the University of Stockholm. Then after that, I proceeded to do my master's degree in African politics at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland. And then after that, I went back home to the Gambia to work at the University of the Gambia at the political science department. After a couple of years, I came back to Scotland, Edinburgh University again to do my PhD in African studies, which I finished in 2016 and went back home to the Gambia to continue the job I started at the university. So since then, I've been working at the university, heading the political science department, also founding and directing the master's program in international relations and diplomacy, also the director of student affairs as well, and alumni affairs. And then since that, I've been working, doing a lot of community service, a lot of consultancies as well for international organizations, and a lot of public and motivational speaking all around the globe. So I think that's me for you in brief, Oscar.
Wow. But I think I can just deduce one thing from all that you've been saying, and it's like anytime you come to study, you love to always go back. Why? What pushes you to go back?
Well, I've always had a passion to develop my country. Since I did my first degree, actually when I was doing my first degree, I was reading a lot of literature on how European society, Swedish society in particular, developed over the years from nothing to what they are today. And I had always promised myself that my education will be worthless if it doesn't benefit my society, my people, my country, or the African continent. I don't want to be the person who will get 80 years old, you look back in life and said, what have I benefited myself? Yes, I've got a PhD, I've got this, I've got that. But what has my education really done for my people? How has it impacted their life in a positive way? And I knew that my education, obviously, if it has to have meaning, if it has to have an impact in a positive way for the Africans, for my people in the Gambia, I have to go back home and work and invest the little knowledge I have over the years And that has always been my passion, that I'm one of the young Africans who think that if we cannot benefit our societies, if our wealth, our knowledge cannot benefit our societies, our people, and change their lives, then we are not living a worthwhile life. We've not lived a worthwhile life. Then our education will be worthless, our knowledge will be worthless if it has to only benefit ourselves and our families. So that has been my guiding principle, that has been my passion, to see that what I've garnered so far, knowledge-wise, I've invested back into the African continent, invested into the minds of the young people, and prepare them and give them the weapons they need, and equip them with the tools they need for nation building, and more generally, to build the African continent to what we deserve to be.
So this is opposite to people that are really going through the Mediterranean Sea, killing themselves just to come to Europe. But yours is on a different scenario of education. But probably those people don't have anything with them, anything that can support them. That is why they are making such decisions. What is your take on that?
I think it's unfortunate that after almost 6 years of flag independence, Africa still is in the state that it is: abject poverty, frustration among our young people, unemployment, marginalization, exploitation, you name it. And it saddens me to see our young people, the cream of our society, those who we should really build, to give them the capacity needed to build the Africa we want, that they've made a decision. And that decision was very unequivocal. That is, we rather die at sea than live in our own countries. It means that we have failed a whole generation of Africans. That is what we've done. We've really failed them. And I don't blame them, because obviously they want to live a dignified life. And the push factors were very, 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 very strong. So therefore they had to go. And I think part of the reasons why I went back home was to ensure that the next generation doesn't have to endure that kind of trauma, doesn't have to make that decision, that they'd rather die at sea than live in their own countries. So therefore, I understood the urgency of the situation, that we need to build our countries, we need to strengthen our societies, we need to build more resilient, more fair, more just societies. We need to invest in our people, especially young people, so they can get access to jobs, access to education, access to skills training. So we give them the opportunities and empower them to become what they want to be in the African continent, to be successful inside the African continent. But unfortunately, that is not the case now. And I think going forward, I think that is the kind of Africa we want to build. But for now, like I said, it's unfortunate. And we hope that one day this whole thing will pass. And I pray that generations to come will not endure the same catastrophe.
I actually put I actually pulled one of your quotes online. I pulled it up, and it states that political parties, not in government. So for those who are watching us now, we are talking about the political dispensation in Africa, and that is our topic for discussion. And the person that is guiding us through this is Dr. Ismaila Ceesay. So from all the way from Gambia, and he is a lecturer, senior lecturer at the University of Gambia. Now, I pulled this quote from online, and this quote is from you, and it goes like, political parties not in government should graduate from being opposition parties to alternative parties by not only opposing government policy, but providing leadership and alternative solutions to our problems. Why do you think we only see our problems when in opposition, but when in power, everything seems to be fine?
That has been the tragedy of Africa, Oscar, in the sense that we've had two sets of politicians in the African continent since independence. The first breed, which is a very rare breed, are those who want to achieve political power because they have really diagnosed the complex problems of their societies, and they've got solutions to those problems, and therefore they want to get political power to change the lives of their people. The latter breed, which is the more ominous breed, which are those who have no ideas. No, they don't understand the problems of their society. There are no solutions to the problems. They just want to get to power because there's a high premium in political power in the African continent. One of the quickest ways to get rich today in Africa is to get into politics. And those are the kind of politicians we have. And I think Africa now has really been left behind. Like I said, 6 years of flag independence. If you look at what we've achieved as a continent, to be honest, the verdict is not good. If you do an inventory of the African continent and our achievements, even though it might be an anomaly to some extent to say Africa, because Africa has almost 54 different states. All are very different geographically, socially, politically, economically. They're all very different. But by and large, in sub-Saharan Africa, what we've seen is failure. We've not managed to govern ourselves properly since independence. And I made an observation and realized that political parties are supposed to play a role, not only to oppose government, but also to provide alternative solutions and leadership to exist to the government in power. Because if you have a political party, your aim is to gain political power through elections. And therefore, you are a government in waiting, no matter what kind of political party you are. So you must be prepared to be able to tackle most of the problems that the current government is facing. So you don't wait until you are in power and you start thinking of solutions. You have to start thinking of solutions now while you're in the opposition. So whilst in the opposition, you have the role to play, not only to criticize and oppose government, to say this is not good, but give alternative solutions. That government, you've done this, but it is not. This is not the way it is supposed to be done. This is how it's supposed to be done. These are the serious political parties. Now we have to move away from politics of personalities, politics of sentiments, to politics of ideas. And I think that is where we come in as a new set of political parties now. And I don't even like to call political parties as the opposition, but we call them the alternatives, because what they are supposed to do, their proper role actually of a political party, that is the proper role of a political party, is to offer alternative solutions and alternative leadership. If it falls short of doing that, it is not supposed to be a political party. Oscar.
Now you talked about finding solutions to problems. And you also talked about ideas. I think we've got all the good ideas on paper. But why do we find it so difficult to implement them?
Well, because most of those ideas are not our ideas. I mean, if you copy and paste ideas, then you wouldn't understand that idea, because organically that idea is not your idea. I mean, it's time for Africa to look for African solutions to African problems. We have our indigenous knowledge. We have our own indigenous ways of solving our own problems. We have our own problems which have an indigenous character. Therefore, if we get problems from outside, if we get solutions from outside, ideas from outside, then implementing will be difficult. That is why it's important that we get ideas from within that can grow organically to ensure that we solve our problems. And that has been the problem in many African countries, like you rightly say, not only at the national level, but also even at the micro level. And we get most of these brilliant ideas, but implementation has been a problem. And I think going forward, that is why we need a new breed of politicians, a new set of politicians in the African continent that understand the complex problems, that can be able to look within us and come up with the ideas that can solve our problems. And I think that is the case, then perhaps we could actualize our dreams and make sure that we move from promise to delivery. That has been the problem in Africa since independence. A lot of promises, failed promises since independence, leaders upon leaders, governments upon governments. But delivery has been a problem. And I think it is time for us to take that leap now away from making bare promises and make sure that we deliver to our people, Oscar.
Wow. That's really powerful, you know. But I'm trying to think. You talked about we need new set of politicians, that is new breed of politicians. Now, do you think the younger generation that is going to take over the older generation, do you think they are going to do anything different?
Of course, yes. I think the older generation, no malice. They've done what they can do. But I think we live in a new era. We live in a new time. We need new selfless politicians, young politicians who are innovative, who are visionary, who are selfless as well, and who understand the problems of their people. And I think because the world is changing, I mean, look at all the countries now, even in Europe and the US. I mean, most of them go for new leaders. I can name you quite a few that have got new leaders from Austria to France to Canada to even America at some point, with the Clintons and the Obamas and so on and so forth. I mean, obviously, what Africa needs now is a new generation of leaders. What we need is effective, innovative leadership, young leadership that has the passion and the drive to move the African continent forward. Obviously, what the previous generation, they've done what they are supposed to do, but I think it's time for them to pass the baton now to a new breed of politicians hungry for change, passionate about the African continent, and who understand also our basic problems, because we live it. We can relate with the young people. Mind you, Africa is a very young population. The median age continent-wise is 25 point something, the median age. It means we have a very young population. And this trend is supposed to continue for the next generation based on projections. So it means that we're a very young population, highly connected, eager for change. Therefore, normally the leadership should reflect their society. Therefore, it's now for Africa to have leaders who reflect their societies, who understand and can relate with their people, with their societies. And that is this younger generation. And we've proven beyond reasonable doubt that when you put young people into positions of power, into key decision-making positions, they can deliver. And that there's enough empirical evidence to prove that, Oscar.
Now, let me pull out corruption, right? Do you think the younger generation are going to do anything different when it comes to corrupt activities? Now, let me give you a case study of Ghana. Now we have got young politicians that have been given opportunity to become, to lead. And trust me, they are not doing most of them are not doing anything different from the older generation. Do you think we can really trust this generation that, especially corruption, we are more sincere and honest than the older generation? For me, I doubt, unless you can prove me
I
otherwise.
agree with you that, I mean, you see, corruption, ethics, morality is not generational. It cuts across generations. You can have older generation that are more honest and more ethical, and you have a younger generation that are not. It's about the training, about the individual, about integrity, about most of these things. So obviously there is no empirical evidence that the young are less corrupt than the old. That nobody can say that. What I'm saying is that the younger generation of those, I'm talking about those who are sincere, who are selfless, who are ready to serve society. Those are the ones I'm referring to when I say the younger generation, and not those who are corrupt. And I think corruption is a problem in Africa. It's an entrenched problem in the African continent. It's a perennial problem. In fact, one of the woes of the continent is partly due to corruption. That has been established by fact that one of our major problems in the African continent, especially in sub-Saharan Africa, but even in the Maghreb, corruption has been a big issue. And until now, we've not been able to find strategies to fight corruption. And I think with a new breed of leaders, obviously, when I say the new breed of leaders, I'm not saying those who are corrupt and those who are whose only desire is to get into power to be corrupt and to steal public funds. I'm talking about those who are honest, selfless politicians with integrity, with a high sense of purpose, whose only mission in life is to see that their societies develop and transform, and their people live a very dignified life. Those are the kind of new breed of politicians I'm talking about. So therefore, I mean, it's a problem. We can talk about corruption until next year. We must find solutions to the problems of corruption. The African state itself has been corruptible because of incentives, obviously, from independence. And I think now it's time for us to really tackle it head on, to ensure that money that is supposed to be spent on social projects, education, healthcare, infrastructure, and most of those important things that make people live a dignified life are put into that purpose, and not stolen by a few bourgeoisies and put in their bank accounts in Europe and North America.
Now, you talked about sincerity. That is those that are really sincere, that would like to serve the continent. Now, this might be my own observation, and that is those that are sincere normally don't have money even during election time. Now, those who are corrupt have got the money, and they can really entice the people for them to vote. So for me personally, I think the people are also the problem. But how can the ones that are sincere and don't have the money, how can they get the vote without being paying to people? Because when I looked at the statistics of how much even politicians spend in Africa, it was across West Africa, how much politicians spend on the average just to come to power, it will amaze you. And how can they recoup that money? Meaning that corruption is still going to be endemic in the system, isn't it?
I agree with you. We've seen leaders who invest their ways into the state house by not serving their people, but serving the powers or the hands that give them the money to win the elections. Obviously, the examples are abound. You get politicians who get money from big donors who have a strategic interest in the countries that they want to govern, that they intend to govern. And then they get that money and go and spend it lavishly on people to buy votes from the people in very many different ways. So when they get to power, they don't serve the people who put them into power, but the big patrons that give them the money to win the election. And that is the unfortunate situation in the African continent. That is why we need to do a lot of civic education. A lot of education needs to be done in Africa. We need to really reorient the education system in Africa to move away from that colonial way of education where you go through the whole education system, the whole schooling system without being educated, without understanding yourself or your society or your circumstances. You are poor, you don't even know why you are poor. You are sick, you go to the hospital, there is no medicine or equipment, you don't even know why that is the case, and that is not supposed to happen. Therefore, it is important that if we want to build a new Africa, we need to create new Africans. We need to go back to basics and educate the young to understand what their rights are, to understand that their votes are supposed to change their lives and not the lives of a politician and his or her family. We need to do a lot of education in that. I think you are right in that. We are lagging behind. That is one of the problems we are facing in Africa. In fact, that is why corruption is difficult to fight, because it's like a vicious cycle, if I may use that term, where politicians have to invest their way into the state house. When they get to state house, they need to be corrupt to sustain themselves at the state house. But I'm pessimistic that with the new young African, the new generation of Africans coming, perhaps, and with the right education given to them, perhaps things might change in the African continent.
Now, if you are joining us now, we are having a discussion with Dr. Ismaila Ceesay on political dispensation in Africa. And if you are just joining us, we will just encourage you to share this so that somebody might really see this conversation. Because Africa, I have always said this, it is time for us to really talk about our own problems and find solutions to it. We have left it in the hands of other people to do it on our behalf for far too long. And this is your token of support to this platform. Now, aid and IMF, what damage have they really caused Africa? Or do you think they are to our advantage?
Well, no, obviously no. We have to understand the relationship between most African states and most of these international financial institutions, especially those that were established at the Bretton Woods conference after the Second World War, obviously, to be more precise. Africa was given a role that was based on exploitation, a role as suppliers of commodity and cheap labor and also cheap commodities. Now, we have to understand the pattern of exploitation that Africans have gone through, a pattern that is based on subordination and exploitation, from slavery to colonialism to imperialism to now globalization, all of them with the same aim, but taking different forms. That is why we need a new generation of leaders who understand these undercurrents to try to revisit and recalibrate our relationship with the West, but also with the East. And you have to understand that now when it comes to this aid and most of these forms, it's not only the West, it's also the East. The Chinese are coming. Turkey is having very serious hegemonic ambitions, obviously in its sphere of influence. They are also coming to Africa. We have India and Brazil. So Africa is like a pawn, if I may use that term, since the scramble of Africa in 1885 in Berlin, when world leaders, European leaders, sat and cut the African continent into pieces of cake, like a cake, and giving away valleys and territory of places they've never even been to, dividing societies and disrupting the way we live our lives. That pattern is still continuing, Oscar. And until and unless we open our eyes and wake up from our slumber and understand that the world out there is not as easy as we think. They don't give you aid because they want to give you aid, but because they want to help you. They have an interest. So Africa has to rethink its relationship with the West, its relationship with the WTO, with the IMF, with the World Bank, with China. We need to really start to look inwards now as Africans. Africa has enough resources to harness to ensure that our people live a dignified life, to even provide everything we need for ourselves. The Congo alone, the amount of energy the Congo River Basin can produce can light the whole African continent. I mean, just take 3 countries in Africa. If you take Nigeria, Kenya, Congo, and South Africa alone can move the African continent. I mean, there's nothing that we don't have in Africa. It's the richest continent on earth in terms of mineral resources. But why are we so poor? Why are our people living so much poverty? Why is there so much conflict in the African continent? Why are we expecting a looming environmental and demographic catastrophe? Why? Because of poor leadership, Oscar. We need to really get the right leadership, the strong leadership that understands these undercurrents, understand these problems, and make sure we harness our resources in Africa to make sure that we now create our own financial institutions in Africa, to make sure that we have an African approach, African solution to Africa's problems. Just look at the COVID-19, Oscar. Look at the stimulus packages that the G20 countries have produced for themselves. America in the $2 trillion. You go to UK, 400 billion. You go to France. You go to Japan. And all these are within the regional context. What has the African Union do? What have Africans done to come up to have a kind of a unified force to fight COVID-19? Even where I come from in Senegal, in Gambia, Senegal and Gambia are like two states, one nation. We share everything in common. Our people face the same kind of problems, the same poverty, the same security problems, everything. But we cannot even have a unified force to fight COVID-19. That is the problem of Africa. And until and unless we integrate our economies, until and unless we create new financial institutions that are fit for Africa, that is built for Africa, and also to try to help ourselves and solve our own problems, will be in the hands of the IMF, the World Bank. And we saw the damage they've done. We don't have to go back a long way in history. We saw what happened after the 73 oil crisis that brought the world market down. We saw how African countries were struggling to survive. Some African countries needed bailout, otherwise they would have collapsed overnight. That ushered in the so-called structural adjustment programs. I mean, to whose interest was that? We still on that. Since Africa got independence, we've received almost more than $1 trillion of aid that has come to the African continent. Far much more than what was given to Europe for reconstruction purposes after the Second World War III, the Marshall Plan. Yet, our countries are backward. We still live in poverty. Our people are marginalized. There is structural violence. Our young people are idle, frustrated, no jobs. We cannot provide jobs for our people. We cannot do nothing for ourselves. And I think that is the unfortunate bit. I think it's time for us to do some soul searching, Oscar. Look inwards, harness our resources, build our own strong institutions, make sure that we integrate our economies, and then we can be able to build the Africa we want, Oscar.
Do you think we've got the courage to negotiate with the West? Because there is this simple analogy that I will give. That if you are a servant in somebody's house, you cannot go and tell that your master that, look, I rather want to do things this way. Do you think we've got the courage to negotiate with the West?
Not the courage, perhaps not the courage, but we have the wherewithal, we have the leverage to do that. I think if Africa can speak with one voice, the world, I think the West needs Africa more than even the East, the Chinese. They need us more than we need them. But we just need to know how to play our card. We need to know how to leverage our power. That's what they call power conversion. We have power. We are very powerful resource-wise. But we need to convert that power into actual power. That is why we've been missing, into actual economic power, into actual political power, into actual military power. That power conversion is what is missing. So all our resources, our golds, our diamonds, our oil, our bauxite, our rutile, you name it, all of them will be worthless if we cannot convert it so that we can leverage on those powers. So now they need us more than we need them. If African countries can speak with one voice and come up with a policy, a common policy, how to engage strategically the West, of course, yes, we will be able to get something. Look at the case of China. China has one policy for Africa. All 54 countries, China has one policy for all the countries in Africa. They know how to strategically engage all the African countries using that policy. We don't have one policy for China. All these 50 odd states have each their own policies in how to engage China, obviously. Look at the price of commodities and the price of even the resources. They are not set by Africans. They are set by the world market, not even us. We don't even have control over the commodities that we sell. They decide the world price. If the world price market goes down, we lose. But the oil we buy from them for our energy needs, they set the price as well. And we have countries that produce. Nigeria is the 6th largest producer of oil, yet they have to import refined fuel from outside. See, that is the failure of the African continent. And I think it's important for us to integrate our economies, for us to come up with common policy and work together as a continent, as a unit, as a bloc, and leverage our resources and convert them into actual political power that we can leverage and be able to negotiate on terms that are beneficial, that are based on win-win situation for the African continent.
Do you think a united Africa is going to help us? And do you think it's even possible?
No, I think we've gone beyond that stage. That stage was very possible at the time when Nkrumah was making that call immediately at the post-independent period. However, the OAU at that time, whether it was wisdom or the lack of it, came up with a clause which is that the borders that were, even though they were arbitrary borders, were inviolable, that they should remain the same. And we had two schools at that time: those who wanted rapid unification of the African continent, which would have really favored the continent, but those who were against it because they wanted to maintain their own spheres of influence backed by their colonial patrons, obviously Britain, France, and Portugal. Now, what has happened now, we've gone beyond that, obviously. I think what Africa can aim for now is the kind of deeper integration to create a kind of a supranational body that is modeled from the EU model, obviously. I think that one is possible, whereby we have common policies in things that are mutual to us, common policies in agriculture, common policies in immigration, in trade, in energy, and so on and so forth, and make sure that we harness our resources by focusing on our comparative advantages. If Gambia is good at doing one thing, let Gambia do it and supply the African market. If Nigeria is good at something, let Nigeria focus on that and supply the African market. So we have a common African market, common African policies, common custom areas, and so on and so forth. These are things that we could work on to solve our, but to talk of total unification with one state, one flag, one national anthem, one constitution, I think that is a far-fetched dream now, Oscar.
Because I think we find it difficult to work together, isn't it? And why? Because, for example, Ghana, Ivory Coast, they are almost the highest producer of cocoa. And they don't have a common policy, as you are saying. It just recently, they just came together that they wanted to have one policy to really have a fair share of the market. So what is making it so difficult for us to work together?
It's because the colonial powers don't want that. They want us to, the easier for them to rule and benefit from our resources. It's for them to divide us. I think it's not, that's why we have to wake up now. We have to understand that that is not business as usual. Imagine if all the cocoa producing countries in Africa come together to have a common cocoa market, setting the price for themselves, because the West need our cocoa. And the unfortunate bit is that Ghana is one of the leading producers of cocoa in the African continent, in fact, in the world. Yet many children in Ghana don't even eat chocolate. They cannot even eat chocolate. And Ivory Coast as well. And Belgium doesn't produce any cocoa. Today is the leading producer of chocolate. They don't have any cocoa. So obviously, if all the cocoa producing countries in Africa can come together to create a common cocoa market, they set the price, they decide how it goes, and that's going to work. But again, like I said, It's not in the interest of the West, obviously, because they want to get it cheaper. So they have the divide and rule. That is why it's important for us for new breed of African leaders to understand these problems, to understand these conspiracies, and so we work together for the benefit of our people. It's not about the benefit of Ghana. Today, Ghana will be redundant no matter what development Ghana has, no matter your level of democracy. If Ivory Coast is not stable, Ghana is not going to prosper. Ghana's prosperity is dependent on the stability and prosperity of the entire African continent, of all the countries in sub-Saharan Africa. So therefore, it is imperative for us to work together. And the situation is getting dire. Within a generation, Oscar, will be 2 billion people in the African continent. 2 billion. 70% will be young people. We need to prepare, we need to plan now for 2 billion people in the African continent. We need to do that. Otherwise, we are facing a demographic disaster. Or in fact, not only that, but an environmental disaster. The Kalahari Desert is expanding. It is coming towards sub-Saharan Africa. We are destroying the ozone layer. We are destroying our forests. Deforestation is key. And we've seen how environmental patterns have gone. Climate change has really changed climate patterns. Flooding in one part in Senegal and Gambia and Sudan. We have droughts in Ethiopia and some other parts of the continent. So therefore, we need to build a more resilient Africa, more resilient societies. And that can be done only if we work together and understand our current problems and our future problems. We must be able to anticipate our future problems. What are going to be our main problems in 20 years' time in the African continent? No one country can be able to solve that problem because most of the problems are common. The problems faced in Mali are the same problems we are facing in Gambia, the same in Senegal and Guinea-Bissau and Guinea-Conakry. In that whole sub-region, we face the same problems. Our face the same problems. Arms trade, arms smuggling, deforestation, you need security. That whole area is volatile. So we need to come together and be able to understand our problems and anticipate that in 20 years' time, what are going to be our major problems in Africa? What is going to be the things that are going to disturb our people? We need to start finding solutions to those problems. You don't wait until the problem strikes and you scramble for solutions. You anticipate the problems by looking at patterns and projections and be able to start dealing with those problems now. The projections are very clear. Within a generation, we will be 2 billion people. Are we ready to house 2 billion people? Currently, no. We have slums in Ivory Coast, in Kenya, in Accra, in many places. People are living in the streets. Our young people want to leave the continent in droves. It means that we have not planned properly. The previous generation did not plan properly for today. We cannot fail the next generation, Oscar. We need to start that planning now. We need to understand our current problems. We need to anticipate our future problems. We need to start finding solutions to these problems now. One of the things that we could do is to go back and look at education system, because every country's education system, not even the whole entire continent, every society, every epoch, the education system is supposed to solve your most basic problems, and it's supposed to help you build the kind of society you want. If our education system cannot be able to solve our most basic problems, if it cannot help us build the kind of society we want, then something is definitely wrong, and we'll be failing a whole generation, Oscar.
Wow, I'm really enjoying this, to be honest. And before I go to my next question, I've got so much comments here that I would like to read some of them. Imbowe says, "Doctor is our doctor, great going." Then Jack Jaju says, "Corruption is just a vicious cycle in Africa because our political are grooming their children. Just look at those who once served and their children are involving in massive corruption." That doesn't mean that corruption is in our DNA. Al Farouk is watching. Then I've got Pascal Torre says, "Great analysis, doctor." Then I've got Imbowe saying again, "Resourcefully rich, but leadership gap continues to linger." Then I've got Boy Sadie says, "Great session, doctor. You are unpredictable." That's a good one. Then Badara Khan says, "Doctor is a genius. He's naturally gifted." Then Rafi Diab says, "Africa is the future. We are rising." Then I also got Rafi Diaby says, "Straight up facts." And he also says it's the worst. Now I've got Imbowe saying, "Economic integration is the solution." Such is difficult but attains desirable results in the long run. This is why I fully support the African Continental Free Trade Area. It's sad that Africa intra-trade is not even up to 20%, as opposed to about 60% external trade. Can you imagine, Doc? Did you hear that?
Yes.
That is really pathetic, isn't it?
It is pathetic. Like I said, the amount of trade volume in the African trade volume is very minimal. We trade more with the West and Asia than we trade among ourselves. And that is the pathetic bit. But you have to also look at the colonial legacy as well. The colonial economic project was not based on benefiting Africa. The project was not developmental in scope or in nature or in intention. It was extractive by intention, by design. That is why if you look at the railways, the infrastructure that links African countries, there was no infrastructure that linked African cities at that time, inter-African cities that were built by the colonialists. They were mostly snaking from the hinterland to the coast. That is why if you look at most African capital cities are in the coast, like the Freetown, the Lagos, the Banjul, the Dakar, because the colonial project was very extractive. The idea was to remove people, labor and commodities from the hinterland to the coast to be exported to Europe. That is why they did not build infrastructure that connect African cities. Infrastructure that can link Mombasa and Banjul, Mombasa and Dakar, Dakar and Lagos, Lagos and Guinea-Conakry. That is not happening. That is why today it is easy for me to travel, Oscar, from Banjul to London within 5 hours. But it can take me a whole day for me to travel from Banjul to Lagos, just right beside me. In fact, it is almost impossible, Oscar, for me to travel from Banjul to Bissau. I might have to even come to Europe first, to Portugal, and transit and go back to Bissau. That is the unfortunate circumstance that we are living in, Oscar, in the African continent. Sometimes you want to go to South Africa from Banjul, you have to go all the way to Belgium and come back again to the African continent. Even inter-African travel is a nightmare, not only by road, but even by air. That is the problem. And therefore, for trade to flourish, the right infrastructure must be there. And there is a huge infrastructure deficit in the African continent. Until and unless we solve that deficit, until and unless we understand that problem, those deep-rooted problems, and start to trade more with each other, and start to buy goods and services more from each other, Africa has a market to create and compete with China. China's population, obviously, is 1.3 billion, I think, or something like that. India is almost a billion, almost a billion. You take the whole of EU, it's not up to a billion. Look at Africa, we're almost a billion. By now, I think we've reached a billion. That's a huge market. Not only, I'm not even counting the Maghreb countries, I'm counting only sub-Saharan Africa. That's a huge market, Oscar. If we are able to produce all the goods and services we need for ourselves in the African continent, we will flourish and compete in good terms, in fair terms, with the rest of the world. And we have the resources, we have the manpower, agriculture can flourish in Africa. We've even not tapped the full potential of agriculture in that continent. We have enough arable land that is untapped. We have a very young population, so the labor force is there. It's just to build their capacity. Tourism can thrive. You go to Serengeti, you go to the game parks, you go to Banjul, beautiful cities, Namibia, from Namibia to Victoria Falls, you name it. Everything is there, Oscar. Everything. Imagine we're able to invest in our agro industry with its value chain, Oscar, making sure that even look at the livestock. We don't even produce our own yogurt in most cases. Or cheese. Goat cheese is the most expensive cheese in the world. I go to a Banjul supermarket, I see goat cheese, just a slice, they charge $30. We can't even produce goat cheese, and we have the right temperature to be able to grow and rear goats in that country. So there's so much untapped potential. And we need the right leadership to understand these things, Oscar, to make sure we invest in these things, in systems, in people. We create the right institutions, the right frameworks to ensure that we build a society that is fit for purpose. It pains me until today, Oscar, if I see we Africans still using second-hand clothing and second-hand goods. It should not happen in that continent. I like Ghana. You are building, no, not Ghana. I think Ethiopia is building a garment, they are expanding on their garment industry. Some countries are really beginning.
And Rwanda has also stopped, isn't it?
Exactly. Some countries are really going to industrialize. Kenya is they are building some of their industrial sectors. Ghana also, I think, and Ethiopia. But the rest of the continent, why should we wear second-hand clothing in Africa? Why should we bring second-hand toys? Why can't we make our own toys for our own kids? In that we cannot even make umbrellas. Everything we need comes from outside, and that has to stop if we are serious about development in the African continent, Oscar.
Including toothpick.
Well, that is unfortunate bit, Oscar. And we have everything. We lack everything.
We have got bamboo. Just at the back of your house, there's bamboo, but we still import toothpick.
Exactly. Yeah. You see, today Africa should be the largest exporter of flour because we have thousands of species of flour in that continent. Yeah, we are not. So there's so much to be done. Look at the wood. Most of the wood that is used by China and Dubai to make most of this furniture that our politicians from Africa. We need to be able to give our carpenters the right training and the right tool to make those furniture. Why should our offices, every office in that African continent, if every office was using furniture made in Africa, that will change a lot. But most of the furniture are bought from the Indian stores, made in Dubai or in China. A rich man who is rich and wants to buy first-class furniture, you go to Dubai or to China to buy your furniture. But our carpenters in Africa can make those furnitures even far much better. They just need to be empowered and given the opportunity with the right training and the right tools. And that is our problem today. That is our tragedy. And unless we change our mind, unless we come out from this slumber, this complex, this inferiority complex, if I may use Frank Fanon's term, we will never move if we think that we are inferior. That is what the colonialists has done to us. When they came, they told us everything about you is not good. Your names are not good. We have to baptize you. If your name was Jumbo, they said, no, Jumbo is not good. We have to call you John. They baptized you. They said our languages were vernacular, were not good. In schools, they used to put a big iron in our neck because I spoke my language in class. They said I should speak English. They told us our religions were not even good. And they baptized, and even not only they brought Arab, they brought Islam. Now, how many Africans do you meet today with indigenous or African names? All our names are either Arabic or English. And I think that's what Frantz Fanon has written about this complex, that until and unless we understand that we can believe in ourselves, Africa is a civilization before Europeans came, before the Arabs came. And that is why, for me, I always emphasize the need for going back to indigenous knowledge. Yes, we can tap from Western knowledge, yes, but again, indigenous knowledge is key, and to believe in ourselves and to make sure that we have what it takes to develop ourselves.
There's a lot of things going through my mind, and I think, we don't even need an hour for this discussion because I've got a lot to ask you, trust me, because there is so much that we can really talk about. And let me zoom into unemployment. When are we going to solve our unemployment situation? Because throughout this discussion, you'll be mentioning we've got the youngest generation, but they are the most neglected and they are the most unemployed across the globe. How can we solve this issue?
Well, improved education and skills. We build suitable infrastructure and the systems that see that young people have jobs. But above all, we need an efficient and a serious government, a government that has a proper strategy. Today, like I said, most African governments don't even know the task at hand. They don't rely on projections. They deal with so-called investors, so-called exploitative investors, investors that come to do no good. They just come to exploit and then go back. So obviously, we need to improve it. We need to educate our young people, give them the right skills and the right training. See, that's a mismatch between what the market needs and what the kind of education we need our young people in the African continent. And we need to understand that what do we need? Today, Africa lacks vocational training, especially many Africans, especially skills, obviously. Everybody wants to be a lawyer. Everybody wants to be an economist. But we don't need that much economists, maybe, or that much lawyers. What we need more now, maybe carpenters. We need more plumbers. We need more auto mechanical engineers. We need more farmers. We need more of those. But people who want to also venture into those fields, we need to make it attractive for them. If you want to be a carpenter, You be a carpenter, a well-trained, well-skilled carpenter who can live a dignified life by doing carpentry. But because that is not the case, you see, the whole education system is flawed, Oscar. That is why sometimes I argue that African universities are really selling products that are not fit for purpose, because we get people to university to study programs that do not that doesn't benefit the African, and we ignore those important things, those basic services that our people need. So obviously, for us to be able to provide employment is a major problem, not only in fact in Africa, but it's a global problem. But at least we've seen countries like Germany that are able to bring unemployment rate down to zero by coming up with really certain robust policies to ensure that you go to the right education system, whereby they have what they call the dual education system, whereby you learn a theoretical 3-4 days a week, you do internship in a particular company 3-4 days a week, and then by the time you finish your learning experience, you already got the job experience and you get a job straight away. So they have a policy for that. They understand how they want to do it. I think it is time for every country to understand their society, understand their market, understand their people, and come up with the right education, the right skills, the suitable infrastructure, and the systems to create the people and an efficient government to be able to do it. Otherwise, it cannot work. And I think we can do it. It just has to take political will to do it, right thinking, critical thinking, and a lot of sacrifice and discipline to ensure that we produce the jobs that our people need. And the downside is that, like I said, Oscar, earlier on, within a generation, we will be 2 billion. 70% will be young people. What do young people need? Skills and jobs. If we cannot provide that for them, we'll end up having young people in droves in our continent, highly connected, eager for change. They will not demand it anymore. They will go and get it. We've seen recently what's happening in Mali, in Sudan, and in other African countries. When our young people create the change, the army waits and lurks behind. When young people make the change and the army takes over, there is new form of coup d'etats now, and it's difficult to really control. Therefore, for us to avoid that situation now, we need to provide opportunities for our young people. We need to empower them, equip them with the right skills, the right education, and make sure that they get the jobs that can help them to live a dignified life.
Wow. Trust me, this is a powerful session, and trust me, I'm really enjoying it. Now, let me just read some few comments. And I've got Zimbabwe again saying, and shift from demand side economy to supply side economy, meaning we need to enhance our productive base. Then also, Rafi Derby says, only a very few African countries manufacture weapons, yet we face with most conflicts in the world. That is really interesting, isn't it? Then also, he also says, Africa doesn't need aid, but trade with each other. I think you have really touched on that. And Alassane Jallo says, Doc, you are on spot. I wish the African leadership could hear your points. And also Kibasela Reni says, thanks for serving the Africa. Keep inspiring us. Please, if you are watching us, just share this and let somebody watch this discussion. We can build the Africa we need. This is a form of education. It's an enlightenment. It's not only about going to sit in a classroom. Some of these discussions should open our eyes, especially during elections, for us to make the right decisions to vote for the right people, for them to come to power. For how long can we take money from politicians just in one day for us to suffer in 4 or 5 years? This mindset must change. And for it to change, it starts from discussions like this, for us to get enlightened, and for us to change and see the Africa and enjoy the Africa we want to what? We want to see and we want to live in. So it's been wonderful. It's been wonderful. But before you go, I want you to briefly touch on, in all this, right? Mindset is an issue. Because if the mindset of the people, if it doesn't change, I don't believe that leadership can even change. That is my own personal opinion. Now, how can we change the mindset of the people? Briefly.
Well, obviously, it's through education. Education is very powerful, Oscar. Sometimes we tend to underestimate the impact of education on the individual. Because when a child is born, you come with no preconceived notions. You come empty-handed. And education partly influences and shapes how you will end up, the kind of person you end up being. And I think if you look at the countries around the world, and those countries that really had tailored their education systems based on their cultures, they tend to be more successful. Just look at the East Asian tigers, look at the European countries, obviously. Their education system is in their own languages, and they put more focus on themselves and their culture. We have departed from that thinking. We need to now believe in ourselves and our ability to be able to develop ourselves. We have it, we can do it. And I think we need to go back to education and make our young people believe in themselves. Growing up as a child, if you are taught that whatever good you are going to have will come from outside, that only outsiders can solve your problem. You see your governments begging day and night, depending on aid and grants, obviously, telling people, make you believe that you are poor. You are not poor. We need to make our young believe they are not poor. They are rich. They are born in a continent full of rich resources. Therefore, we need to go back to education, the basics. That is the main problem, Oscar. We need to go and reform education system in the African continent. Otherwise, we cannot move. And the mindset has to change in that way. That is the only way we can change it. For now, I think a generation has been lost. We need to go and catch them young now. The next generation needs to be really educated, to believe in themselves, to believe in their abilities, to believe in the potentials of their countries, to understand the role they have to play in society, to understand their circumstances, to understand their environment, and to understand their very existence. If we don't, that is the problem. Look at the African continent today. There has been a misalignment from the power of our countries and the potentials of the continent and the leadership that we've been having. That is why, that is because of that misalignment, that mismatch, that is why today we are really backward. Our power potential hasn't been matched by the kind of leadership we've had. It takes one generation, Oscar, to change the circumstances of the next generation. Sometimes it takes only one visionary leader to change the fortunes of an entire country. We've seen it in Singapore. We've seen it in many other countries, in Rwanda, if I may use that as an example, even though some might say that perhaps it's not a very good example for obvious reasons. But obviously, it takes only one visionary leader to change the entire fortune of their society. It took one American president to build America, obviously, and so on and so forth. I can give you many examples. So therefore, we need to build our young minds. We need to make them believe in themselves, in their abilities to change their own circumstances, and also to make them believe in their own environments and the power of their own countries. So the problem again, or the solution, Oscar, is to go back to the basics, to the education system, and reform it to the extent that it can make us believe in ourselves.
Self-belief, and that is very critical to our success as a continent. Now, some few comments here. Imbawe says, and shift from demand side economy to supply side economy, meaning we need to enhance our productive base. I think I've already read that. Yes, and before we go, I just want to give some few mentions. But if you are watching this, please share this to somebody. Let somebody watch this. Also, you can like our page, that is T2I TV UK on Facebook, and you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, share this to other people, friends and family. Send our link of our page for them to like our page. Why? Because we want to create a platform not only for Ghanaians, not only for Nigerians, not only for Gambians, but also for the whole African continent. On Saturday, I'm interviewing one of the popular musicians in Ghana. For the past decade, he has been preaching that we have to wear made in Ghana and made in Africa. We have to invest in made in Africa. And these are the kind of discussions we want to bring to you. We have to believe in ourselves, because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody is going to believe in you. So these are the discussions we are bringing on board. And for us to grow this platform, we can only do it with your support. This can be your token of support to this platform, that you share our interviews and also share the links of our pages and on YouTube and on Facebook to other people, for them to have the opportunity to really enjoy some of these discussions. But before we go, I just want to mention some of the sponsors of this program. This program is sponsored by Twin to Inspire Consultancy. That is your business training and consulting firm. They are in for all your business training, and also if you want to strategically position yourself in the marketplace in terms of consulting. Also, ALS Global Shipping and Logistics. That is your trusted import and export company based in Accra. ALS say if you are stranded at the port, call them and they will sort you out. Also, ZPay Ghana Limited, your remittance and mobile money company based in Ghana. They just launched their ZPay mobile money USSD code, which is *270#. Just dial it on your phone and register. You don't need an agent to register for ZPay mobile money. It can be done at the comfort of your home on your phone. Then also, lastly, Wheels for Sure. Wheels for Sure is your car leasing for every credit. Wheels for Sure says it doesn't matter your credit. You can drive out of the garage with the car of your choice. Wheels for Sure say the system can punish you for not having for not having good credit, but they will sort you out. Dr. Smiley, you can join the screen again. And also, if you want to contact any of our sponsors, their numbers are scrolling on the screen. You can take them and also contact them. When you contact them, tell them that you got the number from T2I TV UK, and you are more likely to get a very good deal. Yes. Dr. Smiley, you can join the screen back.
Can you hear me, Oscar?
I can hear you, but you need to rejoin.
Where do I go to rejoin?
Can you take yourself off?
All right, let me do that and I'll get back soon.
All right, then. Okay, so if you are joining us for the first time, as you say, we encourage you to like our Facebook page and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. That is T2I TV UK. And we are here every Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, 7 p.m. GMT. And that is most African time is now 7 GMT. And in the UK, it's 8 p.m. If you are in the United States, it's 3 p.m. Eastern time. So help us. Yes.
Am I back?
Yeah, you are back, sir. Yes. So we are here every Tuesdays, Thursdays, and on Saturdays. So always join us. We are having powerful discussions that is changing the lives of people. And on Tuesdays, if you are a young person that is watching us, we interview young people between the ages of 12 to 30 years on the continent of Africa and in diaspora that are not complaining, they are not giving excuses, but they are taking the bull by the horn to really change the status quo, building businesses, rising in careers. If you tune yourself to this, even if you are an older generation, you need to listen to these young people. And trust me, you are going to be inspired. On Tuesdays is one of my best days because we are telling our stories in our own ways. And that is what I want you to understand. That it's about time that we tell our stories in our own words, in our own ways. So it's been wonderful having you, Doc. And I really enjoyed every bit of the discussion.
Thank you very much, Oscar. It was great having you. It was a delight. And I also enjoyed it. Thank you.
Now, if you become the president of Gambia one day, what are you going to do to change the face of Gambia and Africa as a whole?
It's to make Gambians believe in themselves, to harness Gambia's resources, to generate the wealth needed that will be invested in the Gambian people, to ensure that every Gambian, no matter where you are born in the Gambia, no matter your ability, no matter your gender, no matter your age, no matter your ethnicity, no matter the region you are from, whether rural or urban, you have access to the most basic things in life, Oscar. Access to basic, relevant, and quality education so that you can grow up to become the kind of person you want to be. You can be successful wherever you are. So that your potential is developed to the fullest. If your God-given potentials are football, you become a very good football star. If your God-given potentials are a pilot, you become a very good pilot. Whatever you want to do, you can be good at it through the education system. So that every Gambian has access to quality healthcare, obviously, so that whenever you are sick, you can go and get cured. So that every Gambian has access, obviously, to the infrastructure that is needed to connect our communities, access to clean water, access to affordable electricity, access to good roads. This is what we need, Oscar, in Africa. We need to really look inwards. Now it's time for us to look inwards, Oscar. For far too long, they've been telling us that the solutions to our developmental problems are found outside. That is not the case anymore, Oscar. The solutions are from within. We have the resources. Gambia is one of the richest countries on earth. Sometimes I say that, even though some might this can be a contested issue. Some feel we are not poor. We have the resources that we can tap and build the wealth we need, create the systems and the institutions that is needed to create the wealth that is needed to invest in our people. Our people must live a dignified life, Oscar. Our people cannot be living in abject poverty anymore. Gone are the days in the Gambia when wealth disparities will be accepted, when inequalities will be accepted, whether it is rural, urban, or gender. We want to ensure that every child, no matter where you're born, you become successful in what you want to be. It is unfair for a child born in urban Gambia to be successful because they want to become a pilot and they become a pilot, and a child born in rural Gambia cannot become a pilot because he or she, that is her dream. Every Gambian child must fulfill his or her dream, whatever that dream is. It is the responsibility of the Gambian state to ensure we build the systems and the processes and the right environment and the right policies in place to ensure that every Gambian fulfills their dream. If you want to be a farmer, you become a successful farmer. If you want to be a carpenter, a successful carpenter. That is what we want, Oscar, so that the Gambia can become a country where our young men and women will not make the decision anymore to say that they rather die at sea than live in the Gambia. I think that is unfortunate, and I think this is one of the things that we'll fight. We'll invest in people, invest in infrastructure. Today, the infrastructural deficit, not only in Gambia, but in the whole entire African continent, is alarming. Over 1/3 of our population in Africa, almost 600 million people, don't have access to electricity. Africa will need almost $100 billion every year to invest in infrastructure to close that gap, that deficit gap, to close it. And half of this should go into power and energy. Most African countries are not light. They don't have light at night. Most people don't have access to clean water. And this is unfortunate, Oscar. 60 years of flag independence, of all the goodwill, of all the resources, of all that has been said and done, yet our people live in abject poverty. Not even the most basic service, not even the most basic, they cannot have access to it. They die of preventable diseases, diseases that can be cured in Europe. You die in a hospital in Africa because there is no medication, because there are no materials. There is a good doctor who wants to cure, but lacks the resources to cure. And it is painful, Oscar, to be a doctor in a hospital. Someone dies in your hands. You know, with the right resources, you can cure that person. That person dies because you don't have the resources. Why? Because some politician decided to steal that money and spend it on himself and his family, and to stay and to stack it away in foreign banks. That has to stop, Oscar. We need to use our resources and invest it in our people because it belongs to them. It is there. And that is the way going forward for every politician. It is time for us to go away from enriching ourselves, from self-enrichment, to ensure we're empathetic to the situation of people and use our resources and equitably distribute it to our population so that everybody, every African can live a very dignified life at the most basic: health, education, infrastructure, clean water, electricity. These are basic, Oscar, that every African must have. The rest can follow at some point.
Wow. This quite interesting. And I can say you are presidential material. You just need to work harder, my brother.
Thank you.
Yes. And these are the kind of minds we need on the continent. There have to be a revolution of a new generation. For how long can we continue this way? That has always been my question. For how long can we continue this way? There has to be a revolution, and the young people on the continent should be discerning. They should look at the long term and not the short term. They should vote for the right people, not because somebody gives you $1 today and because of that you vote for them. Just vote for them because of policies and their abilities. And I think if we can do that, we can really, really change the face of the continent, isn't it?
Of course, the potential is there, Oscar. It's just to believe in ourselves, to work harder with discipline and sacrifice. You see, one generation has to sacrifice, Oscar. Just like in a family, one generation in a family has to sacrifice so the next generation can live a better life. Sacrifice to pay for education. Sacrifice to invest in our children so they can break the cycle of poverty and dependence. And that is the stage at which we are. This generation, our generation, must sacrifice and work harder to ensure that the next generation don't live the kind of life that we've lived in the African continent: poverty, violence, marginalization, you name it. The next generation doesn't deserve that. We cannot afford to abdicate our responsibilities and pass it on to the next generation to do it. We have to do it for them. So when they come, they can live in a continent where they can be respected, they can live in dignity, and have access to all the basics of life that their counterparts are having in Asia and in Europe. So they don't have to go to Asia and Europe to survive and to succeed. Africa has huge potential, Oscar, especially Gambia. Our young people. When was the last time we really made a breakthrough? It pains me with this COVID-19. Where are our African scientists? What are they saying about COVID-19 in Africa? Why should we just rely on Western scientists to tell us exactly what's happening? We have to believe in ourselves. Until we have it, I mean, the diaspora has a key role to play. There's a lot of brain drain that has happened in the continent over the past year. Most of our experts and our professionals are living in Europe and America. We have to attract them to come back home to build the Africa we want. They are indispensable in the journey to greatness for the African continent. It's everybody's role, and I thank you. You are doing a wonderful job by enlightening the people, by making sure that you expose talent, and by making sure that you bring in and talk about those very important issues that affect our continent. So I thank you very much. The future is bright. I am hopeful. I'm an Afro-pessimist. I believe that with the right mindset, with the right ideas, with a change of attitude, we can be able to build a continent that will be the envy of the rest of the world.
Thank you very much as well. Let me read some few comments and we are done. Congratulations, Dr. Gambia, and Africa is blessed and proud of you. Great job, Oscar. Thank you. We really need moral responsibility, not only Western education. That is also great. Thank you, Oscar, for having Dr. Ceesay on air. Thank you very much as well. We are keenly, meanwhile, learning. That is coming from Karamu. Then also Rafi Diaby says, well done, Oscar. Will certainly share. Good son of Africa. Thank you very much. Then Sharif Jaju says, our education system is deceiving. You don't expect the one that colonized and suppressed you to come up with curriculum that will allow you to match them. So yes, we need to revisit our education system. I agree with you, Jaju, 110%. Nations that instill patriotism and self-belief in the minds of the young will surely succeed. And that one is by John Jatta. Man, it's been wonderful having you. Thank you very much for your time. And everyone that has been watching us, we say kudos. On Saturday, we are also here Don't miss that one. It's going to be a powerful discussion with Ochiame Kwame, one of the topmost musicians in Ghana. He's been preaching that Africa must invest in Africa. And that is what he's going to talk about. So you can't miss it. You just can't miss it. It's 7 p.m. GMT. Just be here 6:59 so that we will start the discussion and really enlighten ourselves for us to move to the next level. Doc, thank you very much for your time, and God richly bless you.
Thank you, Oscar. God bless you.
And everyone that wasted their time, we say the time is not lost. God richly bless you, and please don't forget to share. Thank you, and see you guys on Saturday.
I believe that you are able to do exceedingly abundantly, far above all I could ask or think. Believe, yes, I believe. You say, I believe that you are able to do exceedingly abundantly, far above all I could ask or think.
I am so excited because the Step Out TV shows are back live on T2I TV. And for those who don't know, Step Out is a series of interviews and motivational segments designed to bring the best out of you and your business. Therefore, we have the following TV programs. Our first TV program, which is our flagship program, dubbed Step Out with Oscar Bimpong, is designed to interview consultants, experts, talented people, and those doing exceptionally well in their communities. The second one is Step Out SME Focus. This is where we interview business owners and showcase their products and services. The third one is Step Out Youth Impact Zone. This is where we interview young people succeeding against all odds to serve as an inspiration to other young people. And the last one is Step Out Authors Corner. And this is where we interview authors to share what their book is about to the world. Join us every week at 7 p.m. GMT. Like T2I TV on Facebook and subscribe to the YouTube channel. To advertise or for further information, do WhatsApp +44 759 1152 983 or +233 55 580 3924 or email info@traintoinspire.com. T2I TV. We engage, educate, enlighten, and